Hi, thank you for joining me today. And in today's video, I'm actually creating a layout as extra inspiration for the people coming to the Warrington crop in April, end of April, who have chosen to have the crop kit. So I created a crop kit using these Obed Marshall Especial papers and created a layout for that crop kit, which I'll show in the top right hand corner. And these are the leftover bits from that kit. So I just wanted to provide some extra inspiration to show what else could be created with it. So I've cut out some of the cutter parts, one saying hola, hello, on the right hand side, and the other one saying family time. And I've chosen a picture of my husband and my kids at our local Indian restaurant. Just to show some family time. So first of all, I wanted to create some mixed media background on this. And of course, this layout could be created without the mixed media. You just know, if you've watched me before, how much I love mixed media. So I'm coming in with some shimmers. The first one here, this yellow one, is sunflower shimmers. And I'm just smearing that across the top. That pot is nearly finished. I've used that so much. It's such a beautiful colour. I definitely get some more of that when it's done. And then the next one that I'll put down once that one's down is another shimmer called So Sappy, and that's more of a tan peach sort of colour. And then at the bottom I'm going to add an Inklings in a pink called Coral Reef. So these are colours that I've drawn from the photo and from the papers, and I just wanted to create a little bit of a gradient going down the page. So I've put those pencil marks so that I'm not wasting my mixed media, putting it behind the photos. I'm just putting it around the edges and creating a nice halo. So trying to blend those colours in, add some splatters as I go, and also bring each of the colours into each of the areas. So you can see I'm just putting some of that So Sappy up into that yellow sunflower. And then finally I'm going to come in with this Inklings, and I'd forgotten to spray it. You have to spray the Inklings because they're a solid form paint to activate them. So just getting that going and then adding that to the bottom. And again, I shall sprinkle this around, add a bit to the yellow and some to the So Sappy, just to blend them all together and make it all cohesive. So nearly there now with this, just finishing off, adding the last few bits, making sure I had quite a few splatters, and then coming back in again with the sunflower just to add some of that to the bottom as well. And I love how these colours blend and mingle, and the shimmers are just divine. It adds a really nice something to the background. Please excuse my voice. What I thought was allergies has actually turned into a cold. It's so frustrating. It's not too bad, but just annoying. It's affecting my voice. So now that's dry, I'm going to come in with some stamping. This is one of the new All and Create stamps that we've got at Hey Little Magpie, and it's a beautiful background stamp. It's absolutely gorgeous. Just trying to think. It's called number 304, Heartfelt, and it's just perfect for adding a bit to the background. So I'm going in with the Distress Oxide in tea dye, which matches really nicely with these colours. It's sort of a peachy tan colour, so it just provides a subtle extra bit of interest to that background. And I'm just stamping more or less around where the shimmers are. So a lot of it's going inside where the photo and the papers are going to be. So now just starting to build that mat back up again. So I've got the photo and those two square cutter parts on either side. The photo was a 4x6 photo, which I've just trimmed down slightly. There was some excess space on the right hand side of the photo, which made it look a bit lopsided, so I just trimmed that off. So it's probably 5x4 rather than 6x4. Now those pieces underneath are the cut-off strips, the branding strips from the papers. And now I'm tearing a strip of this lovely pink with the squares on and adding the tags to the bottom. These papers from Obed Marshall do have a lot of Spanish phrases on, so I've just focused on the English phrases for my layout. Perhaps if I was doing a holiday layout or something of us being in Spain, I might have used the Spanish, but didn't really want to use it on my English photos, so there you go. So I've matted that photo with white cardstock, and now I'm popping it up onto some 25mm foam pads from Sticks 2, just to give it a bit of prominence on the layout and make it easier to tuck bits underneath as well. And now that's down, I can start gluing the other bits around it. So first of all, these two cards, because I know that they're definitely going to go there. and then I can work on that mat underneath. So moving those tags out the way. I'll fiddle and faff a little bit with these to make sure that I'm happy with the placement and the size as well before I get them stuck down. So starting with that main pink piece first of all, and then I'll add the strips afterwards. And I've kept that piece the full width of the cardstock, so it's 12 inches wide. But these branding strips I've trimmed down a little bit at either side, and I'm just trimming that yellow one a little bit more so that they're staggered. So all this, apart from the mixed media, is from the leftovers from the kit, as I've mentioned. I will bring a couple of more bits in, just ephemera pieces. But it's just to give an idea of what else can be done using bits from your stash. So these tags were also cut aparts from one of the papers, so they are going to be added underneath this strip. And I should just trim them down, partly because I don't want to waste the paper going underneath if it's not going to be seen, but also because I've glued that down, so it would be pretty tough to get them tucked under now. And as I cut that one piece off, I noticed the yellow is quite nice, and so I'm going to use that to create a third faux tag at the end, just cutting off the corner. So I'll add a hole punch to it, and then you can see here just trimming off the corner, and that'll be nestled underneath that middle flat tag, and it just looks like a third tag. So using my We Are Memory Keepers hole reinforcer punch to add a little ring to that so that it matches the other two tags. If you haven't got a hole reinforcer punch, you could just use 2 different size circle punches to do that as well. It will work just as well. So now gluing those tags down. And then I'm going to move on to more embellishing. So I love this Instax frame, but I didn't want the Spanish phrase inside. So I'm just trimming that inside out to create the frame. And then I shall mount that up onto some foam, and it's going to go underneath that family time square, just sort of overlapping it slightly. You can see me just playing, deciding where to put it, but it goes there in the end. So now I'm just having a look what else I've got left from the kit. And these are little tags that were from the cut apart as well. And then this yellow camera, I think I'm going to fussy cut and add that. And that will go as a cluster on that Instax frame. So just cutting it out. I think I'd left my cutter bee scissors elsewhere, so I resorted to my huge scissors. That's not what I would normally do, but it's a fairly easy thing to cut out, so it didn't take long. So that's going to go in that bottom right hand corner there. And now I'm coming into the printables from Hey Little Magpie. These are the ones that are actually designed to go with my story from Simple Stories, but some of the colours work really nicely with this collection, so I'm just choosing a few bits and pieces to go in with this. First of all, this square label in like an orange is going there, and then I find one of the circles which says memories, and I like that. A couple more little labels make their way on as well, and a few more of the circular elements. I end up using a heart inside the Instax frame, and this one that says grateful. So I'm just pulling out all the ones that I think might work, and then I can choose at a later date exactly what I want to use. So mounting this up onto those foam squares now. These are the 6x12 strips from Sticks 2 again. They're on a huge roll, and they're so handy. Saves you having to get your scissors all gunked up because they're pre-cut for you, so I find these invaluable now. So you can see they're just all around the frame now, just pulling off that backing and then popping that down. And they're the same height, they're 2mm, so the same height as the square ones, so that nestles really nicely underneath the corner of the photo. So you can see I'm just building up here. That yellow Flair badge says wonderful, and that's from the Flea Market Simple Stories collection from Hey Little Magpie. Some of our Flair badges that we make to coordinate with collections, and once again works really nicely with these papers, so I'm using it for this layout. And then adding some yellow twine underneath. This is just some cotton thread. Just creating a bit of a bird's nest there to pop it underneath the flare. And then that camera is going to go up on some foam. So again, just using one of those 25mm squares, works perfectly for that. And then this circle, I decide to add some epoxy to make it into an epoxy flare. So these are naked epoxy flares that are in Hail of the Magpie as well. I'll leave a link to our shop down below if you're interested. So I really like the cluster that's built up inside that frame, and sometimes frames are really nice to create a grounding for some clusters like this. So now I'm going to work out what's going on the right hand side. So I've got that label from the cut apart sheet. I've got this memory circle from the My Story printables, and some other labels, an orange label and a pale blue label go under as well, along with that circle that says grateful. And once again, with that grateful circle, I'm going to change it into an epoxy flare by adding one of the naked epoxy flare badges that we've got in the shop. Oh, and there is a circle there as well, a 1 1/4 label circle that I've just added there. I like all the different sizes, especially when I'm using Flair. To be able to use different sizes is great. So just popping that under and then layering these two up on top. So first of all, that memories piece and then the grateful one. So I'm still toying with this little flag, but I can't quite decide where to put it, so it doesn't make it in the end. But I'll just put that into my stash to use at a future date. Adding a time of journaling to this label, and it just says, after a day in Rochdale with Leanne, having our hair done, we decided on a meal at the cottage. So now coming in with some twine, again this is from my stash, the wax twine, and just threading that through all 3 tags, and then I'll staple it at either end, and it just creates interest across the bottom of that page and brings that blue down, the tealy blue. So just threading it through each tag and almost creating a knot, but not quite, but just sort of tying it so that it doesn't loll all over the page. Third one, almost there now. And I don't want to pull these too tight because I like the way that it meanders over when I leave it a bit loose rather than pulling it really tight. So just checking that I'm happy with the size. And here's that other flare that I was talking about, the one that says grateful, that I just add the epoxy sticker over the top. And then glue that down. And I love that. I love layering all those different labels and circles. They look really nice. So here I am just stapling those 2 ends down so that they stay in place. And then I'm going to add some dots with my Nouveau Crystal Drops. So coming in with the gold first of all, and then I've pulled out the yellow, the peak, is it Caribbean Ocean, I think it's called? Let me check. Yes, Caribbean Ocean. And then at the end, you'll see I decided to bring in some of the black as well, because there's a little bit of black on this layout. So just wanted to bring a bit more in. You can see I'm just squeezing the bottles on a scrap piece of paper before I go onto my layout, because sometimes if they have an air bubble in, they'll splatter on your layout, and that's the last thing you want. So I just start them off on a scrap piece of paper just to make sure that doesn't happen. And this black is very, very stringy, so I just have to go a little bit slow with that. Can't just dot, dot, dot like I can with the other colours. So just checking that I'm happy that I've covered everywhere that I want to. Now the yellow. And I really feel that this just finishes the layout off nicely, adding these little dots. Finally, the date on this little square label that I've got there under the photo. And that's it. I really hope you've enjoyed this process. Thank you so much for joining me. Please do leave any comments you've got down below. I'd love to hear from you. Other than that, I shall see you Sunday. Thanks again. Bye.